Ever catch yourself wondering why you're feeling a bit more tired than usual, even after doing the same things you've always done? Or maybe you've sensed your strength or focus isn't quite what it used to be, despite your efforts to stay healthy. It could be something as simple as needing a break sooner on a walk, or blanking on a name you've known for years. If moments like these have left you feeling a little discouraged about aging, you're in good company. We all reach that point where we wonder, am I just getting older, or is there something I could be doing differently? And here's the good news, you're not powerless. Science shows that many of the changes we associate with just getting older are actually within our control. In fact, research from Harvard Medical School suggests that something as simple as 30 minutes of walking a day can reduce your risk of heart disease, improve mood, and even extend your life. Aging doesn't have to mean decline. It can actually be a time of strength, clarity, and vitality, if we pay attention to the right signs. So today, we're diving into 9 changes every man over 60 shouldn't ignore. These are signs that you might be aging faster than you think. But the great news is, once you notice them, you can start making changes that truly make a difference. Stick around, because the final tip we'll cover might just be the most surprising and the most powerful. But first, a quick heads up. This video is for informational purposes only and is based on publicly available research. Everyone's health is different, so always consult your doctor or a qualified healthcare provider before making any changes to your lifestyle, diet, or exercise routine. Scientific knowledge is always evolving, and what works for one person may not work for another. Alright, let's jump in with the first change that too many men ignore, and it's something that can creep up slowly without you even realizing it. You're not sleeping like you used to. Now, we all have the occasional bad night, but if you've noticed that you're waking up tired even after a full night in bed, or waking up multiple times during the night, it could be a sign that your body isn't recovering like it used to. Sleep is the time when your brain clears out waste, your muscles repair, and your immune system resets. In a study published by the National Institutes of Health, researchers found that deep sleep, also known as slow-wave sleep, declines significantly with age, especially in men. And when that deep sleep drops off, everything else follows. You might feel groggy, moody, and even notice issues with memory or concentration. But here's the kicker, there are ways to improve it. I know someone, Mark, a retired firefighter, who started cutting off screen time 2 hours before bed and added a magnesium supplement in the evenings. Within a few weeks, he said, "It's like I finally woke up rested again. First time in years." Try this. Create a consistent bedtime routine. Dim the lights after 8 p.m. Avoid caffeine after 2 p.m. And consider adding something calming like chamomile tea or meditation. Small changes can restore your sleep cycle and your energy. Now let's move on to another sneaky sign of accelerated aging. You've lost muscle and didn't even notice it. This one's tricky because it doesn't always happen in a dramatic way. One day you're lifting groceries with no issue, and the next you find yourself avoiding heavy tasks because they just feel harder. That gradual loss of muscle is known as sarcopenia, and it starts as early as your 30s. But after 60, it accelerates unless you actively fight back. According to a study in the Journal of Aging and Physical Activity, men who engage in even moderate strength training twice a week can significantly slow muscle loss, improve balance, and reduce the risk of falls by over 40%. And no, you don't need to become a gym rat. I knew a guy named James, 67, who started with simple resistance bands in his living room. Just 20 minutes every other day. A couple of months in, he said he felt steadier walking upstairs and his golf swing, stronger than ever. Start where you are. Chair squats, wall push-ups, light dumbbells, it all adds up. Your muscles are like your bank account. The more you invest, the more you'll have to rely on later. Alright, now for something a little more subtle, but just as important. You're feeling down more often, but brushing it off is just age. This one hits close to home for a lot of men. Feeling low, disconnected, or less motivated doesn't always show up as dramatic depression. Sometimes it's just a lack of joy in the things you used to love. If that sounds familiar, please know, this isn't just what happens when you get older. It could be a sign that your mental health needs attention, and it's absolutely worth addressing. A large-scale study from the University of Michigan found that men over 60 are significantly less likely to seek help for mental health concerns, even though they're just as likely to experience symptoms of anxiety or depression. But here's the flip side. When older adults do engage in things like therapy, support groups, or even lifestyle changes like regular walks and creative hobbies, their quality of life often improves dramatically. I once met a man named Ron, who picked up painting in his 70s, something he hadn't done since high school. Not only did it lift his mood, but he ended up teaching classes at his community center. He told me, "I feel like I got a piece of myself back." Never underestimate the power of purpose, creativity, and community. And speaking of community, let's talk about you've become more isolated without realizing it. It's easy for social circles to shrink after retirement or as people move or pass on. But social connection is one of the most underrated factors in healthy aging. According to a landmark study from Harvard that's been running for over 80 years, one of the top predictors of long, healthy life isn't diet or exercise, it's relationships. Being socially connected reduces stress, boosts the immune system, and can even lower your risk of cognitive decline. And no, you don't need a giant social calendar. It could be a weekly lunch with a friend, joining a walking group, or just calling someone regularly. There's a man in my neighborhood, Carl, who started volunteering at a local dog shelter after his wife passed. Not only did it help him through the grief, but he said the connection with the animals and the people there gave his days meaning again. So if you found yourself going days without meaningful conversation, consider that a signal. Reaching out might feel awkward at first, but it's one of the healthiest things you can do for yourself. Now that we've covered some of these essential habits, sleep, strength, mood, and connection, let's move on to something just as important in part 2. Now that we've talked about some of the most overlooked signs, like disrupted sleep, quiet muscle loss, feeling disconnected or down, let's shift gears and talk about how the smallest daily choices can truly add years to your life. You'd be surprised how much power you have right now, in your own hands. Let's start with something that seems simple, but is actually one of the most powerful anti-aging tools we have. You're not moving enough. And I don't mean running marathons or doing high-intensity workouts. I mean simply moving. Walking, stretching, standing, doing light chores, anything that keeps your body in motion. The danger isn't just being sedentary, it's being consistently sedentary. And unfortunately, it sneaks up on a lot of men after 60. You retire, you sit more, routines slow down. Before long, you're only getting a few hundred steps a day. But listen to this. A study published in JAMA Network Open followed over 4,800 older adults and found that those who walked at least 8,000 steps a day had a 51% lower risk of death compared to those who walked less than 4,000. But here's the kicker. It doesn't have to happen all at once. A brisk 10-minute walk after each meal? That's 30 minutes right there. Taking the stairs instead of the elevator? That counts. Even standing up and stretching during commercials while watching TV can improve circulation and joint flexibility. I know a guy named Dennis who started walking to his mailbox the long way, twice a day, every day. That small change turned into a daily walking habit. 3 months in, his blood pressure dropped, and his doctor cut back his medication. He told me, "I didn't think walking would change much." Turns out, it changed everything. It's never too late to start moving more. And the more you move, the better everything else starts to feel. Your mood, your energy, even your sleep. Now, speaking of energy, let's talk about something you're doing every single day that could be speeding up aging without you realizing it. You're eating like you always have, without realizing your body's needs have changed. Your metabolism at 65 is not the same as it was at 40. The body processes nutrients differently, muscle mass declines, and digestion slows down. So if you're still eating the same way you did 20 years ago, especially if that involves heavy portions, lots of red meat, or processed foods, it might be time to recalibrate. The good news? You don't need a complicated diet plan to see big improvements. One of the most researched and recommended eating patterns for aging well is the Mediterranean diet. Rich in vegetables, fruits, legumes, whole grains, nuts, and olive oil, it's been shown to lower the risk of heart disease, diabetes, and even cognitive decline. In fact, according to a 2021 study from the National Institute on Aging, people who followed a Mediterranean-style diet had up to a 30% lower risk of developing dementia. That's powerful. And this isn't about restriction, it's about upgrading. Swap butter for olive oil. Add beans to your lunch. Trade your usual steak for salmon once or twice a week. These aren't drastic changes, but they add up fast. There's a retired teacher I know, Marvin, who made just 3 changes. Switched to oatmeal instead of bacon and eggs for breakfast, started drinking water with lemon instead of soda, and added a salad to dinner every night. He told me, I dropped 12 pounds without even trying, and my acid reflux vanished. Your body wants to thrive. Give it the right fuel, and it'll respond in ways you didn't expect. Now, I know some of you might be thinking, isn't it too late for me to change my diet or start exercising? And I get it, but here's what science says. It's never too late to start, and even small changes bring big returns. There was a study done by the British Journal of Sports Medicine that looked at adults in their 70s and 80s who began strength training for the first time. Within 12 weeks, they saw measurable improvements in strength, balance, and even memory. 12 weeks. That's less than a season of your favorite show. Even people who had never exercised before in their lives saw benefits. So if you've been putting off making changes because you think it's too late, let that go. Your body is always ready to adapt. All it needs is a little consistency. And here's another key area where a lot of men experience changes, and many don't talk about it. You've noticed your mind isn't as sharp, but you assume it's just part of aging. Forgetfulness. Slower recall. Struggling to find the right word. It happens, but that doesn't mean it has to be permanent. Our brains are like muscles. They need regular use and challenge to stay strong. And the good news is, mental decline is not inevitable. Studies show that staying mentally active, whether through reading, learning new skills, or playing strategy games, can significantly delay cognitive decline. One study published in Neurology followed over 1,900 older adults and found that those who engaged in mentally stimulating activities regularly had a 23% lower risk of cognitive decline. I know a guy, Larry, who started learning Spanish in his late 60s, just for fun. He says it gave him something to focus on every morning, and he even started chatting with his grandkids in simple phrases. My brain feels sharper than it has in years, he said. So if you've been feeling a bit foggy or forgetful, don't panic, and don't ignore it. Challenge your brain. Learn something new. Even puzzles, crosswords, or watching documentaries and discussing them can help keep those neural pathways firing. And lastly, for today's section, let's talk about something a little deeper. Something many men don't think about until it starts to impact their health in serious ways. You're not paying attention to stress. Now I know stress isn't just about feeling worried. It's about what it does inside your body. Chronic stress raises cortisol levels, which can lead to high blood pressure, weight gain, suppressed immunity, and even shrinkage of areas in the brain related to memory and focus. Stress ages you, plain and simple. And the worst part, most men have learned to push through it. But that's not strength, that's survival mode. The strongest thing you can do is recognize it and take steps to lower it. Simple things can make a difference. Breathing exercises, journaling, taking walks in nature, listening to music, even having one trusted person to talk to. In fact, studies from Harvard Health show that just 10 minutes of deep breathing a day can significantly reduce stress markers in the body. I once talked to a veteran named Hank, who dealt with serious anxiety for years. He started meditating, not in a complicated way, just sitting quietly and focusing on his breath. He told me, it felt silly at first, but it gave me peace, real peace. So don't overlook stress. Your body is listening, even when you pretend everything's fine. Now that you've got these powerful tools, movement, smarter nutrition, brain engagement, and stress reduction, it's time to dig into something even more critical in part 3. How to stay motivated when things get tough, how to handle pain or setbacks, and how to build a mindset that keeps you thriving for the long haul. If you're enjoying this so far and want more simple, science-backed tips to stay healthy as you age, don't forget to subscribe to our channel. We share helpful videos just like this every single week, because living better shouldn't stop at 60. In fact, that might just be the best time to start. Now we've talked about sleep, movement, nutrition, mental health, and stress, but there's something we haven't covered yet. And that's what to do when things don't go as planned. Because let's be honest, staying consistent is tough, especially when you're dealing with pain, fatigue, or the frustration of not seeing results right away. So let's start here. You're struggling with low motivation, and it's not just laziness. Look, you've probably accomplished a lot in your life. Maybe you raised a family, built a career, overcame tough times. But when it comes to your own health now, it's easy to lose steam. You might wake up and think, what's the point? I'm too far gone. Or, I don't feel like doing anything today. But here's what I want you to hear. Motivation is not a personality trait. It's a byproduct of action. A study from the University of Chicago found that people who set small, achievable goals, something as simple as stretching for 5 minutes in the morning, were far more likely to stay consistent long term. Why? Because success builds momentum. Even tiny wins remind your brain, hey, I can do this. I knew a man named Paul, 72 years old, who hadn't done any kind of workout since his army days. His knees hurt, his back was stiff, and he honestly thought his active years were behind him. But one day he decided to start walking just to the end of his driveway and back. That was it. A week later, it was to the corner, then a lap around the block. Within months, he was doing light resistance training and even joined a community pickleball group. He told me, I feel 10 years younger. Not because I'm doing anything extreme, just because I started. Start small. Celebrate often. Build momentum. But what if pain is stopping you? You're dealing with chronic discomfort, and assuming it's the cost of getting older. This one's huge. Joint pain, backaches, stiffness, it's so common that many men just accept it. But common doesn't mean normal, and it doesn't mean it can't be improved. For example, a study from Johns Hopkins University found that older adults who added just 10 minutes of daily low-impact movement, like Tai Chi or gentle yoga, reported significant improvements in joint mobility and pain reduction over just 8 weeks. One gentleman I know, Alan, had arthritis in both knees and figured there wasn't much he could do. But after working with a physical therapist and committing to a simple stretching routine every morning, his pain dropped enough that he could walk his dog again without limping. I thought I was stuck, he said. Turns out, I just needed a better strategy. So if pain is slowing you down, don't ignore it, but don't surrender to it either. There are solutions. Gentle stretching, anti-inflammatory foods, targeted exercises, even a good physical therapist can make all the difference. You don't have to live in discomfort. Now let's shift gears, because this next one might surprise you. You're underestimating the power of purpose. It's easy to overlook, but the truth is, purpose is one of the strongest predictors of healthy aging. It's not just about having a hobby or staying busy. It's about feeling like you still matter, that your days have meaning. Research from the University of Michigan showed that older adults with a strong sense of purpose were more likely to stay active, sleep better, and had significantly lower rates of stroke and cognitive decline. So how do you find purpose if you feel like you've lost it? Start with connection. Volunteer. Mentor someone younger. Pick up something you used to love, woodworking, gardening, writing. It doesn't need to change the world. It just needs to matter to you. I once met a retired mechanic who started fixing up old lawnmowers just to give away to folks in his neighborhood who needed one. It wasn't glamorous, but it gave his days structure. He told me, it gave me a reason to get up in the morning. That's what I needed. Never underestimate the power of doing something that feels useful. Purpose fuels energy. Energy fuels life. And here's one final, often forgotten area we need to talk about. You've stopped tending to your emotional well-being. A lot of men grow up with the idea that showing emotions or talking about feelings is soft. But here's the truth, emotional health is real health. And ignoring it can speed up aging just as much as bad diet or no exercise. According to the Mayo Clinic, people who practice emotional regulation, through things like journaling, therapy, spiritual practices, or even you are not stuck. Your body is listening, your mind is adaptable, and your future is still yours to shape. Now that you've got these tools, let's bring it all home in part 4, with a final boost of motivation, a few simple challenges you can start today, and a powerful reminder that aging isn't something that's happening to you. It's something you can learn to work with. So now that we've talked about the most important changes every man over 60 should be paying attention to, things like poor sleep, lack of movement, mental fog, motivation dips, pain, and even loneliness. What do we do with all that? Here's the truth. Aging doesn't mean losing your health. It means taking charge of it in a smarter way. You're not 25 anymore, but you're not powerless either. In fact, science shows you may have more control over your aging process than you think. Let me give you an example. Dr. Michael Greger, author of How Not to Die, often cites that up to 80% of chronic diseases, like heart disease, type 2 diabetes, and many cancers, are preventable with the right diet and lifestyle. Not slowed, not managed, preventable. That's huge. And what's even more encouraging, you don't have to overhaul your entire life overnight. You just have to start somewhere. Pick one thing from this video. Just one. Maybe tonight, instead of scrolling through your phone before bed, you take a short walk or stretch for 5 minutes. Maybe tomorrow you swap out your usual breakfast for something that fuels your body better, like oatmeal, berries, a handful of walnuts. Maybe you finally book that checkup you've been putting off, or reach out to a friend you haven't talked to in a while. It doesn't need to be perfect. It just needs to begin. I want you to imagine something for a second. You wake up in the morning with energy. Your joints don't ache like they used to. You go for a walk, and it actually feels good. Your thoughts are clear. You remember things more easily. Food tastes better. You feel proud of your body, not because it looks the way it did at 30, but because it works. Because it supports the life you want to live. And more than that, you feel present. Not just existing, living. You're in the photos. You're at the gatherings. You're walking the dog, playing with the grandkids, fixing up the old shed, laughing at dumb jokes with your buddies. That life, it's not a fantasy. It's just a few small choices away. And here's what makes the difference. Consistency beats intensity. Every time. You don't need to be the strongest guy at the gym or the healthiest eater at the table. You just need to keep showing up. For yourself. For your body. For your mind. One day at a time. And yes, there will be days when it's hard. When your knees hurt. When your energy is low. When your motivation disappears. That's normal. That's human. But the real strength isn't in avoiding those days. It's in not letting them stop you. You've made it through 60+ years of life. Think about that. You've seen love, loss, success, heartbreak, growth, failure, change. You've adapted. You've endured. And you're still here. That means you've got what it takes to make these next years your strongest yet. So here's my challenge for you, starting today. Pick one new habit this week. Just one. Maybe it's walking 10 minutes a day. Maybe it's adding one extra veggie to each meal. Maybe it's finally stretching your back in the morning, or turning off the TV 30 minutes earlier at night. Maybe it's just drinking more water. Write it down. Tell someone about it. Then do it. And once you've done that for a week, add another. That's how it starts. That's how it sticks. And that's how you reclaim your health, not by changing everything at once, but by committing to a life that keeps getting better, one choice at a time. You've got this. You're not too old. You're not too late. You're not too broken. You're just getting started. And remember, none of this is about chasing youth. It's about building strength, building clarity,